Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. My name is Samaria and I'm joined by my best friend and co host.
Miosha.
And we are reviewing Love is Blind season 7, episodes 5 and 6. So if you are interested in this season of Love is Blind and our thoughts, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and meet us in the comments to let us know what you think about these episodes. All right, let's go ahead and start with episode 5. I think Leo and Brittany were the first people we saw. So, okay. So at the end of our last review, I was saying that I wish Brittany would have just gotten up and left after she said what she needed to say. Like I wish she would have just stood on business. But it seems that she sat around and let Leo talk her into. I don't know. What did you think about this whole proposal situation?
I kind of had a feeling that it would progress to that point when they left it at a cliffhanger. I don't think they would have left it the way that they did if she actually got up and left. But they eventually make their way to the proposal, and I feel like this was the corniest proposal I've ever seen. I don't even know how she could take it serious.
I
This
don't know why she would
proposal.
say yes. Like, it was very confusing to me. You know that you're the second choice. You know he's not for real. Why would you say yes?
I think part of her just wanted to progress to the next stage. And I also think this whole thing of him having money,
Had
I
to
think
play a
she
role.
wanted to see it through to see, okay, what does he at least look like? To see maybe if it was worth it. Maybe he has the looks and the money. And then maybe her thought was, I can make it work from there. Or if he's filthy rich, then I could maybe get over being second choice as I'm able to have the lifestyle that I want.
Okay, do you want to go through and just talk about their reveal while we're here?
Yeah, let's just get them all
Get
the
them out the
way.
way. Okay, so I will say for the reveal, I maybe expected his suit to look a little bit nicer because he's been talking about having money and it just was not a nice suit in my opinion.
Taylor Ware.
Yeah, I was like, okay, for someone who's rich, that's a hideous suit. Um,
I will say I wouldn't say it's hideous. I would say ill fitting. You you don't take if I had that type of money the way I would have all my clothes tailored to my body, the rest
snatch.
of us comic folk just have to go into Nordstrom and buy what's on the rack and hope for the best. But and even still certain items you would take the next step of, okay, I'm going to an event, something special. Imagine buying a wedding dress and not getting it altered.
It was just very basic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. She said, I honestly couldn't tell you a word he said. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, obviously she's here for some type of fame or, just the money or something other than here to find her life partner.
Yeah, so they walk out, they have this long embrace. He says, "Oh, Brittany, look at those tiny fingers." So that confirmed what I said in the last recap that this whole thing of him pretending to pick Hannah or be on the fence still with Hannah at the end of episode 4, I believe it was, or I'm sorry,
3.
episode 3. Um, he was playing games, gaslighting her. Why even mention how tiny her hands are, how tiny her body is, because that's all you were concerned about.
I will say, before they even said anything, I think as soon as Brittany saw him, she was second guessing. There was this moment when she walked out and then she sees him. Then she kind of looks to the left, like, oh Lord, this is what, this is not what I was expecting. So I think immediately when she saw him, it was a no.
And this isn't related, but it kind of is.
Okay.
I wrote that Leo isn't that tall either, because in seeing Brittany next to Hannah, I came to the conclusion of even if him and Hannah had worked out, Hannah may have been taller than him too.
You think so?
He has a pretty average build. Her heels weren't that tall. Leo and Nick D to me aren't that different in stature and height. And so I was thinking, oh, Hannah, I don't know if you were gonna get your big strong guy with
Either
either.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so she said, I might even forget what he looks like. My memory's not that sharp. I'm like, you're just
Brittany.
playing it up now. There is no way. But yeah, she looked like she didn't want to be there. Their whole interaction was extremely awkward for me. Like there were times where she was actually recoiling and you could tell
He
in their
was rude.
body language. Yeah, he was all leaned into her. Oh my god, my fiance's, there could be, he said this before he saw her, but there could be a million Victoria's Secret models in the room and I just want my fiance. I just want the one. It's like, Leo, are you really going to act like we didn't see you 2 episodes ago fighting for Hannah? Like, do you think we forget?
That whole interaction was cringe, very difficult to watch. And what really sealed the deal on the awkwardness was them trying to describe what they love about each other or like about each other.
Oh my god. First of all, he says he loves her and she said, she goes, I'm not comfortable with saying that yet, or I don't feel ready to say that yet. And then she asked why he loved her, which, he gave the cliche answers. But when he asked her, and she said,
It's a lot of pressure.
this is so much pressure. But then when she finally gave an answer, Rioja, I was screaming because why did this lady say, the thing I love about you is even though you made me feel like second choice, you were just doing what you were supposed to do. How is that a reason you love somebody? They had nothing to say. First of all, they had nothing to say in the pods. So I don't know why. It's not surprising that they had less of nothing to say when they met each other.
And then, so right off the bat, she's bringing up this Miami or Mexico. And so I'm not familiar with the process, but I guess up until this point, the couples don't know for sure if they're going to progress to Mexico or not.
Correct. So they don't know if they're going to be one of the couples chosen to go on the trip.
Okay, so she's already confirming, hey, I'm getting a trip out of this.
No
He
matter
says,
what.
oh, no problem. And then we find out, of course, they don't make it far past Miami.
I'm surprised they lasted a couple of weeks after Miami. I thought her plan was to take him to Miami and ditch him. Like, so I would love to have them at the reunion just because I want to know what happened between them going to Miami. Who paid for the Miami trip? Was it Leo? What happened when they got there? Did Brittany stay in the same space as he did? Because I just want to know what happened with them.
I will say I was happy to not have to suffer through many more episodes of them as a couple, to be honest, but I do want to know what happened. Also, something I saw floating around was how people were saying how they don't think Leo actually has money like that. And so maybe it lasting a few weeks was her trying to suss out, does this guy actually have money? Especially if
Yeah.
she's a woman who's been kept before and maybe knows what that looks like. Maybe she was trying to verify what he was saying. But the people are on the internet, at least, are like, oh, we don't think he really has money like that. They think he made up this whole persona.
Wow. Well,
Well,
shall we move on to the next reveal, which was Nick and Hannah?
yeah, Hannah and Nick D. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So she said that she was expecting him to have a lot of swag, and I'm like, boy, is she in for something. Uh, they're this. I saw them being the same height with her heels on.
They
I
were.
didn't see that she was taller than him with the heels.
Yeah, so something he said when they first walked out, before they walked out, he says, oh, I feel so secure with her. It's not about the money you have or the cars you drive. It's about the man that you are, and how he appreciates that she may love him for his depth, or she has depth to love him beyond the physical things. She says, I just know he's just so hot. And so you could even tell by before they walked out how she was really leaning into hoping that he would look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I felt like for her to be very insecure about her looks, I felt like she was way too focused. Not that she shouldn't be attracted to him, but that's not this process. And to jump to them being with each other, I thought that they were the same height.
With her heels on.
So that means that she's not taller than him. I was so confused by that.
Because she said, yeah, she was making it seem like that he was just shorter than her. I'm like, but you have on these kind of thick heels.
They were at least about 3 to 4
3.
inches. Now, I will say when they sat down, I think she has a longer torso, so she may have been slightly higher than him while sitting, but I think he probably has longer legs given when he's standing up. He is her height with heels on. And she even said, like, oh, I was debating on if I should wear heels this high. I didn't see a huge height difference. I saw maybe a stature difference.
Yeah.
And so I understood her perspective in that, but at the same time, girl, he described himself as a punter, a kicker. When have you ever seen one of big stature? You don't, and he is far removed, but even him saying that he was 5'11", I'm like, yeah, he looks to be about 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be true.
5'11", I mean, to
Himself?
me, 5'11" is not short. So
No. So when they walk out, he says, "Oh, you're absolutely beautiful. You smell good." No response from her. I'm assuming maybe she's nervous. But then in her confessional scene,
you're being
it
very
cut,
nice. You're assuming she was nervous. Okay.
it cuts to, which this confirms it, her saying like, "Oh, he described himself as 5'11", bigger slash medium build," which isn't truthful. And to me, he looks 5'11", medium build.
She said, I'm like a foot taller than him. I was like, okay, I understand you're disappointed, which she couldn't hide her disappointment. It was very clear. He was looking to get some validation and she just could not even like give it back to him. Even when they were separating, he was looking back to see if she would look back and she was just disappointed. It was very obvious.
And I think him being of a medium build is bringing up maybe her insecurities. I understanding wanting what you want, but her even mentioning like, "Oh, he's as big as me," and it's not his fault that his body is the way that it is, and that you maybe want to be with someone bigger so that I don't know, maybe you don't feel a certain way.
She wants someone like Steven's build.
And that's what I said. Steven really is her guy from a physical standpoint.
Yes, there we go.
And Steven does not look like a kicker. He's a
Yeah.
lineman.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I didn't have too much else. It reminded me of a comment that the other guy made where he was like, "Oh, I told her I was 5'8", and she said she was 5'9", then we didn't meet each other. Like she didn't want to date him the next day." And I was like, "Oh, well, how does he know that that's the case?" But it definitely was. And then I looked on Netflix. I mean, not on Netflix, on Instagram, because Love is Blind, the Instagram page, posts these people and what they're saying. And Hannah said something about, "Oh, I like a man who is tall and big and whatever." So that man was right. It was because of his height. And I'm sorry that I questioned him.
yeah.
All right.
She also mentioned something that, oh, she says she feels way bigger than him and some men feel emasculated. And I'm just thinking, give him the opportunity to feel one way or the other. You're jumping the gun on this.
Absolutely.
And once again, I think that they did talk looks in even more detail. She described herself, he described himself, and y'all weren't even supposed to do that at all. So,
Yeah. I, at the end of their meetup, said I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't go on the honeymoon. That's how disappointed I
that
thought she was.
scene where she goes back to her side and she's just like shaking her head, she is upset.
She's big mad. Big mad. All right. Ramses and Marissa.
I'm just gonna call him Rams. Like she calls him.
Ramses. So, I mean, I thought it was a beautiful moment, the proposal, but I didn't have much to highlight there. I want to get to the reveal. Do you have anything on the proposal?
She said
Okay.
yes.
Okay, there we go. So the reveal, I loved his suit. I loved his whole outfit. It was very much fall. And I thought she looked beautiful too. I think they dress very well. They complement each
Mhm.
other.
Yeah.
And they seem to really like how the other person looked. Like this is your ideal reveal on this show, I think, where she's into his looks and he's into hers.
Both of them were very pleased to the point where they almost forget the proposal is supposed to happen.
Right? Isn't that insane?
But in a good
Yeah.
way. But in a good way. I think we've seen some almost missed proposals or ring fumbles, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look like a good sign. But for them, you could just tell they were so enamored, and they do look good together.
They look gorgeous together.
Yeah,
She was
they.
really into him. She was like, yeah, he's the Greek god Adonis. I said, all right now. Okay, sister.
I have
Relax.
more thoughts on Marissa, but I'll save it.
I think I know where you're gonna head with this. Like she a little what did they used to say back in the day? Hot to trot. Like, is that what they used to
No,
say?
and I don't even have a problem with that part.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just an observation. Like she's
Yeah,
very, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
ready.
She was ready, but I was happy for both of them though, because I liked their vibe a lot, so it
Hmm.
pleased me to see that they were into each other.
Yep,
All right, and so now I guess we go to Mexico.
yep. We're in Cabo.
All right, who shall we start with?
Let's get Taylor and Garrett out of the way because I don't have
Think there
much
was
to
much on
say.
them.
As you mentioned on the last recap, I don't think we're gonna hear or see too much from them.
From them, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but he said that she wouldn't be the type of woman he would approach at a bar. And I wish he would have gone a little bit, not for her, but for me. I want to know what about her would have made you not approach her at the bar.
I
But
thought he did mention something about how she looks so good and is well put together that he may have been
is that
intimidated
what it was?
about her presence. Like, oh, I don't know if I could pull a girl like her.
Interesting.
I
Okay, I
thought
did
he
not
said
catch
something
that.
like that. Maybe I'm imagining.
I didn't, but either way, they felt like they were similar. If they had a dinner party, they would be making sure everybody else is okay. They're both very independent, and their struggle is that they're going to need to ask for help. That's all I
Yep.
had on them for this episode.
Yeah.
All right, Ashley and Tyler.
Hmm.
Okay.
So what's interesting about them is they said they had no talk about sex in the pods, and they're just. It sounds like they're just coming to the conversation of her being abstinent, and he is too, or had been too.
Has been for some time. Now, I will say, because I know there's a lot going on the internet right now about one person in this couple. We will talk about that at the very end because there are people who watch our reviews who are like, we don't want the spoilers. We're avoiding the spoilers on the internet. So we are aware of things that have come out. Our review is based on what we thought before we saw those things on the internet. So the review itself isn't tainted, but we will talk about that particular detail at the end. And we'll let you know, for those who don't want spoilers, we'll let you know when to click off. All right. So yeah, they're just getting to the abstinent conversation. So that could have gone left.
Well, so something I thought was, man, Tyler, y'all seem to really be aligned.
In sync.
And
Yeah.
I wrote where I haven't seen many differences amongst them. I'm sure that they're there. Maybe we just haven't caught them, but I wrote, is he a Mr. Me Too? Where he's just, jumping on the bandwagon of, oh yeah, me too, or oh, I agree with that too. Just, I don't know. I haven't seen any differences with them, and I want to be optimistic, but at this point, all the time in the pods, I have not seen where they have maybe a differing opinion or energy on anything.
Interesting. But he didn't profess to be abstinent or celibate. He just said like it's been a while because of whatever reason. So
Hmm.
maybe they're not 100% aligned on that.
Okay.
I gathered from them in this episode, we're probably not going to see them doing a whole lot on camera. Just by the way Ashley is carrying herself, like what she wore into the pool, and
Hmm.
that they're not like full on making out on camera.
Hmm.
I don't think we're going to see much of their sexual lives put on Front Street.
Yeah, they're clearly attracted to each other. I wrote that she's pretty reserved and very aware of the cameras, and I'm not mad at it. You're still gonna have to go back to your real life when this is all said and done. So
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So the next couple I have is Nick D and Hannah. Hannah said, "I forgot what you look like," and she said, it felt like she started to come around genuinely. She said that she thought he was so handsome. It was just a lot to process. And I'm like, no, you did not think he was handsome. And it's okay. You don't have to lie. I think at this point she was aware of the cameras. She knows that a few seasons ago, some girls got dragged on the internet because they thought they were so cute and were talking negatively about other people's looks. And so when she came out and said, I thought you were handsome, it was just a lot to process, I'm like, it looks like you're doing a little bit of backpedaling here.
It is. She's definitely trying to clean it up. I will At this point I was giving her the benefit of the doubt of okay, maybe because of the way that he described himself and the energy he was giving, it doesn't match him physically. So I'll give it to you. If you woke up the next morning, you've had time to think on it, sleep on it, you feel differently, I'll give you that for now.
Okay. Fair. And then he talked about how he has a brand back home that he has to protect, so he doesn't want to say anything about their physical life. And she was like, oh, we're on the same page as far as that goes. But there's something that happens later on down the line that's like, you aren't on the same page as him.
And even with him having that conversation, they were still mic'd up. So I was thinking, dude, you should have waited until the cameras were legitimately gone.
Well, a part of me is like, is that really important to him, or is it important that we see him saying that? Like, is he also aware of the cameras and just it was they have enough time off camera that he could have mentioned that to her then.
Yeah.
So
And
anyway,
I mean,
there's not much to say about them. They kept talking about the conversations that they had in the pods. I thought it was very odd to have a conversation about plastic surgery this early on. So he was asking if he had the money, if she would get plastic surgery, like if she would get things done. She was saying no, she hasn't done anything to her face yet. She would probably do something after kids. He said, oh, well, I prefer the more natural look, but then he continued to push about plastic surgery. So I just found that whole interaction to be odd.
and even him saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see the other beautiful women." Hannah, I understood what he was saying. Like, oh, it'll be cool to see the names with the faces and the
Right.
voices and all that. But I think because of her insecurity, she took it even more seriously than probably what it actually was.
Yeah. So
So,
this was also the episode where he goes and rides the swan with the lady. What did you make of that?
uh, yeah. So I took it as him being silly, drinking, having a fun time. I think because she isn't genuinely there with him physically, because she mentioned something about, oh, I'm trying to keep the spark and the passion. If you were already all in from a physical standpoint, emotional standpoint, I don't think what he did would have turned you off to that level. I also think that because they're so new, still getting to know each other, he's trying to be himself, I think. And maybe there are parts of her that are realizing like, oh, this guy's childish, annoying.
Yeah.
Him interacting with the older lady, I didn't see any harm in it, and I felt like she was being a bit sensitive. I'm like, well, let him live. I mean, who hasn't been at a resort and met crazy other drunk people on the beach, and you start interacting, and I don't know. I felt like she was being overly sensitive, but because she really don't like him like that,
Okay.
it
I think
amplifies it.
I have a different perspective. One, I think because they're so new, if someone who I had just met and just started talking to mentioned, oh yeah, when people do this, it kind of gives me the ick. I might refrain from doing it unless it was something that I just had to do. But going and riding a swan wasn't that big of a deal. So I think there's a feeling of, oh, we're still in the phase where you should maybe still be trying to impress me. So if I've told you in advance, hey, I get the ick for this particular thing, then maybe don't go to do it. So I was trying to see her perspective. For me, it wasn't a big deal going to ride the swan, but for her, if she has an ick around men riding things, then maybe I think he could have just done without riding the swan. And then with the older lady, I if it were just me, I would laugh it off. But I can understand, okay, we just met each other. We're trying to get to know each other. Not only have you gone away to do something that I am not necessarily in favor of, but you're taking time and you're spending time with another woman, playing with her in my presence. So I can see how it felt a little bit weird because they're so new. And
Yeah,
this
he
is their
did
time
invite
to
her on to the
establish.
ducks.
Like, don't you know how someone invites you to a party and then they get up and they go and they're having the time of their lives and you're just kind of there like, okay, when are they coming back? I could see her feeling that way. Now I agree with you. I think things are magnified because she's not sure if she liked him anyway, but I want to I want to see more of her perspective in this situation, or I'm trying my best to see where she's coming from, and I get it.
I will say also because they're new, I'm kind of glad that he did it. If you're this silly person who does stuff like
Yeah.
that and you've been in a situation where you haven't been around this person, you're long distance or
Mm.
whatever it is, they need to see you a bit in your full element. And
Okay.
so I
Okay.
feel like icks come up later. People who have all these icks, it's a slippery slope of can I just be myself, let my
Yeah.
hair down? I'm on vacation, I'm on the beach, I want to meet other drunk people or whatever. Can I be myself? Or do I have to be like, oh, well, that's an ick. Oh, well, that's an ick. Now you find
Yeah.
yourself walking on eggshells for all these
Eggshells.
icks that you have. And I don't know. I think I understand your perspective of, hey, maybe be mindful if you're new with this person.
Hmm.
I will say if he had a different build and the physical attraction was really there, I think her icks would adjust.
I will say, because I have been speaking from giving her the benefit of the doubt, I do think she could have used this opportunity to just be like, okay, fine, I'll go and ride the stupid ducks, like, or whatever. And it could have been a fun memory that they had. Like, oh, remember
Or
when we did XYZ?
or she didn't even have to do it, but in the 5 minutes he was probably over there with this older lady, like
She needed to
enjoy
let
your
go.
cocktail, scroll on your phone,
Well,
do
they
your
don't
own.
have phones.
Oh, they don't have phones. Okay, well enjoy the view. I don't think he was chatting up this older lady like that. And then also the way she kind of tried to spin it, to make it more than what it was, I think it feeds into her insecurity. Like,
But what if she really felt that way? It seemed like that really bothered her. This other,
I
I don't know if she felt threatened by the woman. I wouldn't go that far, but this other woman is fit. We're on our low key honeymoon, and you're over there flirting and having a good time with another woman. It might not have felt good to her. I can see
yeah.
that.
And I think in that case, I think Nick D needs to take, if this is how he is, he likes to have fun and be social and whatever that is, this might not be the person for him. So,
Oh, I definitely don't think she is. I think there's a little bit of a superiority complex with her and him. Like, she thinks she's better than him, to be
clearly
very
based off what
frank.
happens later. So,
Yeah, she thinks she's better than him. So it's not even an even playing ground.
yeah.
Okay. Alex and Tim.
Oh, Tim and Alex. Okay.
Yeah. So I could already start to tell that his joking about every little thing was too much for her, and I didn't know how long she would put up with it.
Yeah, she said she used to have a short temper and that how she doesn't like repeating herself. I was like, ooh.
When someone says that up front, Like there are people who later on you find out they don't like repeating themselves. Like honestly, if I've said it 2 times and you ask me what, I'm like, never mind. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just move on. But that's not something that I would be upfront and be like, oh yeah, I hate repeating myself. So she did say she's easily irritable, and that was blatantly obvious to me. Not he's also annoying, to be fair, but
I
she
think they both have this banter about them
I don't think it's
where
banter.
it was something there where it's the energy is off, and I feel like every time I watch them on my screen, I'm like, this could go really left.
I literally wrote that down. I said, I'm not liking the vibe of them. It's tense and dang near volatile. Like, it just feels like things can go left in an instant with them. Um,
And
and
he did say in that scene though, he's like, "Oh, I don't like to argue. I'm not quick to anger." And she's like, "Well, not even for your wife."
well, I don't think that was it. Was that in response to I'm not quick to anger, or was it that I don't like to argue with people?
He doesn't like to argue with people and like fight for things, kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It feels like they are finding each other's nerves and playing on them.
Oh yeah, even him saying like, "Oh, I'm an immovable object."
Yeah, even her asking, "Do you feel like I'm bossy?" Because I think
I
people think I'm
am.
bossy. I
Hmm.
think something is weird there with both of them.
I agree, and I think in the pods there was a lot of time that we saw where I feel like he was pouring into her all these things that have happened to him. We really never got to know her.
Her,
This is the
right?
first time I'm hearing that you're bossy, you're have a quick temper, you don't like to repeat yourself. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, did he hear all of this in the pods, or was he too busy filling the space about himself to even really get to know her? And in that scenario, you're not really maybe put in a situation to maybe observe that about her.
Well, I think things were alluded to in the pods. So when he was
Mm.
talking about, oh yeah, I need somebody who's gonna bite back. Like it seems like they had some conversations around this, but we didn't get to see the depths of it. So
Yeah.
in this same scene, he was doing the whole dog thing again, and she said, "You got one more time," and that was it. But
Even her saying that.
it was annoying though. Mish. You don't think that was annoying?
Oh, that whole dog thing, I'm like, somebody contact PETA. Like, what is this obsession with dogs? Check
Oh,
on
we.
his dog. But I think it's almost like he likes that energy from her,
He
but
likes to rile her up.
he likes to rile her up. But then when she goes, she goes.
It's like you got me riled up now. This is what you wanted, right?
Mm.
But
I
later
don't see it for this couple, really, either one of
at
them.
all. So later on, she asked, could you really see this being forever?" And I think the reason why she continued to ask that is because she knows that she doesn't see it forever. And maybe she's hoping something he says will reassure her or will make her see it too. I don't know, but I think it's odd for her to continuously ask that question.
I hadn't thought much into that, other than they're still very new and she's looking for. I mean, they're evaluating if you could see it for forever. That's the whole point of
I
the
think
next
she
few
knows.
weeks.
I think she's like,
So
this is not something I could do for forever. And I think she wants him to be on the same page as her with that. Like, I think
mm,
when he's like, oh, I'm so sure, she's like, really? Are you so sure? For real? Because she can't
I will
fathom.
say I don't get romantic energy from them. I get that he's attracted to her. She may even be attracted to him. I think they like what they see physically, but I don't get romantic vibes. None of their scenes give romantic. It gives brother and sister getting on each other's nerves, almost on the verge of tearing down the house.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, and then the last couple on this, Monica and Steven, they love to whisper. Even with their review, that's all they were like, oh yeah, I just love you. It's so good to see you. Like, is this ASMR? Like, y'all speak up. What is going on? But
Yeah.
I'm concerned about them actually.
I am, but my concerns don't perk up until the next episode.
So I'll tell you what concerned me in this. One,
Hmm.
so she talked about how she used to put value on, oh, what prestigious university did this person go to, what fancy job do they have, and he didn't go to college, or he went to a technical college, I
What,
think,
2 year, and he's an
two
electrician. Yeah.
year, and he's an electrician, and that is a complete switch. So she didn't say, oh, I always was concerned, like, did this person go to college? Or, does this person have a career? She said, I've been concerned about and putting value on prestigious university and fancy job. And so those adjectives don't match up with what he is. So I'm concerned that those things are important to her, and
Hmm.
this might be too much of an adjustment. So maybe you're looking for a guy who went to Harvard or Yale, and you meet somebody who went to, you know, FAMU. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, he still went to a 4-year college, so that is not too drastic of a difference. Oh, he works in the DA's office. Okay, he's not a big time lawyer, but he has a good career. To me, the two things are just so far apart that I'm concerned those things genuinely matter to Monica, and how long can she act like they don't matter? So that was one concern I had about them.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think in the next episode it confirms it.
Yeah. And
He.
then,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No.
I was gonna say he seems to be a bit enamored with her, maybe even looks up to her a bit. I will say something she was saying that, oh, he's a good person. I think she does see the value in him.
Hmm.
I just don't know if it will be valuable to her long term. Yeah.
Yeah. If she's used to guys who weren't enamored with her, weren't treating her kindly, I can understand how it feels good to have him. I will say he did make me laugh when he was like, full Brazilian, let's go. But
Mm.
the other concern that I had about them was that he said he's been winging it, and he just shows up to rooms and gets lucky. Whereas she's like, oh, I've never been winging it. I've always had a plan, and everything has had to be in place for me to,
Hmm.
execute. And so that's two different worldviews, where one person feels like, oh, well, all I have to do is show up and things will fall in line. And that could come with being a man, being a white man. Whereas for her, it's like, no, I've had to like plan for everything and then show
Hmm.
up so that I could put the plan into place. Like, me just showing up would never get it done. I had to put a lot of effort towards it. And so that could also come with being a woman in this world, being a woman of color in this world. So they just have two different world views. And I wonder if those will clash at some point. So yeah, those are my concerns
Okay.
based on this episode. Episode 6.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Actually, in episode 5, we do find out that Marissa and Ramses did move things forward physically.
okay. That was
Couldn't wait.
episode 5. Okay, I did not write
Hmm.
that down.
Hmm.
Okay, episode 6. So I have before their meetup and then after the meetup.
Hmm.
So before their meetup, we could talk about Marissa and Ramses. They they're just cute together, and very nosy, wanting to know everybody's business.
Yeah, and so with them, I love the physical chemistry that they have. Um, but I wrote what else? I don't know, something about Marissa. I don't know. Like she said, she in her previous relationship, she's always went for one guy. Kind of with Monica, how you mentioned there was like this hard switch because I think
Hmm.
they were laying in the bed. He asked her, "Well, why didn't you ever go after a guy like me?" She was like, "Oh, well, maybe I assumed that they were too soft, or I was worried about what people will think." And I wrote, is Ramses someone that she really wants long term? Is there longevity there? Okay, there's the physical aspect, even as far as their unique setup, maybe of him being a house dad working remotely or whatever that would look like.
Yeah.
She seems like she likes to be in charge, um, and that she's very direct. I don't know if she's really showing up fully as herself just yet. I don't know. There's something there where is this just you trying it out to see if it'll work for you, being with this type of person that's so different than what you had before? Or are you really all in on this is what I want for forever? Because I think, yeah, I think she did say something about, yeah, like I never dated anyone like you, but I've always wanted to. So it's
Because
like,
she said that she can't wait to show him to her sister because all the things that she said that she wanted to her sister, those are the things that he is. So I don't necessarily, okay. With Marissa, I think right now she is having a lot of fun and she is being a little boy crazy. I don't know that it's as much of a shift as the Monica situation. I think Marissa seems to have been in relationships where she isn't getting the softness and the gentleness and the care. And I think Ramses can do that for her. So he looks very appealing. Do I think there will be issues in the future because she's not used to certain things? Yes, but Ramses doesn't. I don't know that he's a pushover. I think if he is a pushover, that's going to be a problem. At some point, he's going to have to put his foot down about certain things, or else she will just be like, well, this is not attractive at all.
and maybe that's what I'm like, okay, maybe I need to see more from him, maybe in the real world around, okay, would you stand up for yourself and be like, actually, no, this isn't gonna work for me, or this is how things would need to go? Because I just wonder if in her previous relationships, her being with these very masculine military men, as she described, where she didn't maybe have as much voice. Whereas like now she's swinging to someone where she feels like now the power's in my hand, or I can have things my way.
Yeah.
So I guess it's yet to be seen. She clearly they have a lot. They're physically yeah. I
Okay.
don't know.
No, I think you've made valid points, and it'll just take tomorrow's episodes for us to know.
Yeah.
We could go with Garrett and Taylor.
Okay.
So I like how Taylor's approaching this situation. So she said, women hear a lot of words, but I like to see a lot of action. And I think that's a fair position to take. They, you don't think so?
I agree. My thought was, I wonder if Garrett, maybe not up for the challenge, but you know how some guys they don't want to feel like they have to do too much, like, oh well, we're engaged, or I don't know. I haven't gotten the sense from him. I haven't gotten much anything from him. I can't tell yet. Her vibe is you're gonna have to work for this. You're gonna have to work for me, earn me. And I don't know if Garrett has the okay, I'm up for earning her type of energy.
Okay. Do you think it's you have to earn me, or I need to validate everything that you're saying is actually what you're willing to do?
Maybe both. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think maybe in the pause a little bit, I saw the earning, but I think she's trying to buy into the idea of who Garrett is and just wants to make sure
He's on
that's
the
a
up and
safe
up.
thing to do.
Yeah, she's being more cautious, which I would lean into definitely when parent in getting engaged to a stranger.
Even somebody I know. Be like, I just want to make sure you good. You had
Yeah,
said you were
everything's
gonna
on the
do
up and
this.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, but they talked about both having very structured lives, like lives that are already in place. And so lives that are already in place, but then that are also intense. And they talked about how it will probably be difficult to navigate joining those lives. He said he's ready to change his life for her. Again, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're very independent people. You can just tell.
I didn't have much on. Okay, yeah, I did. So Tyler and Ashley, then we can do the others before we get to the meetup. So Tyler and Ashley, this scene concerned me where they were sitting. I think they did the cooking and then they were sitting
Pasta
down.
making.
So there
Okay.
was something that he said. He said, "Oh, pod baby's on the way. No issue with that."
Hmm.
But then he said, "Well, you would have hated me if you had met me sooner." And there are going to be people who are probably going to come out of the woodworks and say, like, "Oh, he was this way and he was that way." And so it made me think, what is he trying to prepare her for? You know, it would be concerning to me if someone said, "Yeah, you're gonna hear people talking about how bad of a person I was before I came to this experience." If you are a good person, even if you've made some bad decisions, if you are a good person, there shouldn't be people coming out saying, "Oh, he's terrible," or "he's this." Like, at most, people would say, "Oh, he's a really good guy. I mean, he had this thing that he did XYZ years ago, but he's really recovered from it." So I would always be concerned with someone saying, "Oh, I've had a really bad reputation," because how much of that is the past and how much of it is still with
Hmm.
you. So the
And
things he said concerned me here, and I just felt like he was trying to prepare her for something.
and I thought you would think meeting family and friends would confirm everything that I've seen about you. Isn't that the whole point? Like, oh, okay, confirmation of what you're saying is actually true
Yeah.
versus they're saying the opposite of what you're showing me. Now I have to try to decipher what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And what's current or what's past.
Yeah. And I mean, many people do have a past, so you want to give people the time and space to move forward and not have to pay for the sins of their past. At the same time, in what area? That's what I was thinking. Like, is it your career? Is this your old coworkers that you annoyed them? Is this your family? Is this old girlfriends? Is this
Right.
your childhood best friend that you screwed over? Or like who's saying these things?
Yeah. So I just felt like, okay, he's trying to either get ahead of something that he knows is going to come up that maybe they haven't talked about in the pods. Yeah, something about that just struck me as wrong. But she was saying, nobody can tell me anything because I'm so sure about this. And I love that. Like the googly eyes, like romantic, in me loves that. But at the same time, they just met each other. So not saying I want her to take the same approach that Taylor is taking, but if someone is telling you there are things to be concerned about, take that at face value and be like, okay, I'm sold on this, but I can't wait to hear what people have to say, and I'd be interested to know more about what you're referencing.
Yeah. Even the comment she made about her mom, I'm all for people being like, hey, my parents won't decide my future partner and just growing up and moving forward with your life. At the same time, I was thinking if your mom is pretty level headed and she's not the type of person who just don't like everybody you bring or
Hmm.
she's very irrational or emotional about the people that you bring around, it may not hurt to have an open ear
Yeah.
to her feedback, but only she knows her mom. So
Yeah.
with that, I could see it both ways. Mom might actually be seeing something for real,
Yeah.
or if she's usually feeling a way about the people you bring around, then like, oh, okay, your opinion is clearly biased. So,
Like Jasmine's mom from the UK season. Obviously, you can't even trust her to give an unbiased opinion because she's so set on hating everybody you bring around.
yeah.
But if your mom is good, it might be advisable to take good counsel. He is still a stranger, even though their love story is very sweet and enjoyable to watch. But yeah, that's the only thing though. I still enjoyed their vibe. I like them together. It's just that, what is he trying to prepare her for? All right, Alex and Tim and this hat shopping.
Yeah, so once again, he's being silly. That just seems to be kind of how he is. And they're going shopping for hats. And I don't know. It just gets combative too much right off the bat where she's like, oh, I don't like your sense of style. I don't like your hat. And I'm just like, why is this even a thing?
Here's the thing. I think Tim enjoys being like contrarian. So he takes this ugly hat and he's like, "Oh, what do you think about it?" And she's like, "I don't really like it." And he goes, "Oh, well, I love it." It's like, okay, it's okay if I'm going somewhere and I'm wearing an outfit and I put on some shoes and you're like, I don't really like those shoes. Oh, okay. I'll probably change it because I trust your opinion. But it seems like he's the type of person who, if someone is saying, oh, genuinely that doesn't go together, he would be like, he has to prove himself like, oh, well, I like it, so I'm going to do it. And it's like everything doesn't call for that type of energy. And, now, I think she could have said things a little bit differently. So he said, how do you like, or he asked, how do you like being around me? And instead of saying, oh, I enjoy being around you, or, sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, anything else, she goes, well, I hate your taste in fashion. It's like, okay, dang.
It's,
What are
it's
you?
always on edge. I put all this damn playing. Y'all are gonna F around and find out, which they did.
Yeah, but this is a place where I was like, oh, she's also like that. She's also a little bit contrarian. So where he says, hey, I don't like my house being messy, and she said, well, sometimes I put on 5 outfits and then they're on the floor. He's like, well, you could put them in the corner, like you can have a corner.
Mhm.
And she's like, well, I do what I want. I'll put my stuff anywhere. Come on, y'all. At this point, like he thinks everything is a joke. She's picking at him in moments that it's just not necessary. He's picking at her in moments. It's just too much.
Yep.
Yeah. And then again she says, when you look at me, you think this is it? So I think she's asking because it's not it for her. But all right, Monica and Steven, and then we go to the meetup.
Okay.
What? Why the deep
They have
sigh?
this acupuncture date, and I was just thinking, did the man there hear this whole conversation?
He probably spoke. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he knew what a boner was.
But if I were him, I would be like, all of that here, it
It was a
just,
lot.
it was a lot. And girl, and for y'all's age,
At
y'all,
y'all's big age.
it just, maybe they just didn't have anything else to talk about. Um, Apparently things are growing between them physically. I don't know if they've been intimate or not.
I don't, at that point, I don't know that they had, but she said he's not someone she would see and think, oh, he's the hottest person. But now because she loves him, he is. And I probably wouldn't have even said that to a camera. I would have kept that thought in my head. But she chose to say it out loud. He said something like, oh, yeah, I've seen you with the black girl headband. I said, them books ain't helping. Those books about being black that he got from the library, he needs to check out the right ones because the black girl headband, that is not what that is called, sir. But we'll let him discover it at his local library. All right. Now we have the meetup.
Which I will say, so this meetup, one thing I loved was that there was no extra party to anyone that was
This is
wrapped
the
up in a love
first time.
triangle.
I think this is the first
Finally.
time since season one, maybe.
I'm just like,
No, this is the first time because season one was Jessica who gave her dog wine.
mm-hmm.
Oh, this is the first season where that has not been a thing.
And I loved it. Even just as they were walking up, I'm like, okay, finally, there should be equal energy, good vibes amongst the whole group. And I felt that for the most part. I think obviously within certain couples, they had their thing going on, but the girls' vibe was good. The guys' vibe was good. There was
Absolutely.
no weirdness of us over here, them over there, like the UK season with Catherine and Ollie and that whole thing where it seemed like everyone seemed to take sides
Yeah.
in business that wasn't there. So I appreciated the energy going into this pool party.
I enjoyed it as well. So Monica, when she saw Nick D, she was like, in the pods he was BDE, but he's cute. He's very small. So maybe Nick is just what, 5'9", 5'10".
He's not that small. These women, even Monica, they were calling her a model or whatever. She has long legs.
Miss
Even she's
America.
about 5'9",
Yeah.
so without heels. So I don't think he's that small. I think he's average height and
Height.
build for a man. I think the average height of a man is what, 5'9", 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in his with his weight, he looks very average. I don't think he's small. I think to be 5'9" in a woman is tall, quote unquote. So
Yeah. Okay. Hannah said that Hannah said Rams and Marissa look so good together, and they do. They
they
do look
do.
like they could be cousins or something. They match. They match. Um, I'm trying to figure out where to go next
Let's
because
talk about Hannah in this conversation she has, maybe talking to Marissa about Nick D and this whole duck thing.
okay, go for it.
Yeah, so she's basically rehashing this story about the duck thing to Marissa. Marissa doesn't really seem to jump to like, oh, he was wrong for that, or oh, something's wrong. She was just like, oh, okay.
I don't think she cares because Marissa was the one who told her in the beginning, "This man is not the love of your life."
Yeah.
I
So
don't
I
think
think
anything would surprise her.
in the moment it felt like she was putting on a bit like, oh, he was touching all over the lady, and
Mm-hmm.
Marissa was just like, okay.
She added to the story. She was like, "Oh yeah," and the lady was saying, "This is a jealous bee." That lady did not call you out your name. Like she was adding 20 on 10.
And Marissa could care less, as
Could
she
not care
should.
less. I thought it was weird that Nick and Hannah got together in the corner and were trying to figure out who all had slept together.
And you're the main person who claim you don't want your sex life on TV.
Right. So it just felt weird that right there. I mean, I understand you go back to the crib and you do your, you know, your recap of the night's events, but to pull over to the side and be like, "Oh, I don't know if they slept together yet. I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask." Like,
Yeah,
I
and y'all know
know
y'all have y'all's own drama going
going
on.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you want to just get this out of the way with the note thing with Nick D and Hannah?
we can. So I guess she
Yeah.
would. Do you think she intentionally left it out so that he would see it?
Yes.
I think so too. I think she's petty enough to have done that.
Extremely petty, and I've been trying to be very even with my reactions to her because of her age. But I feel like with this one, she took it way too far. Nothing about that duck moment should have led to you writing a note of 10 things you don't like about him and then leaving it for him to find. And you yourself are a person who has professed to have insecurities about yourself. I think she was completely out of line for that.
And it's like Garrett said later on, it seems like there were things that she already felt. And this moment, like it was just a list of 10 things is too much for that one event to
It was
trigger.
it was already there, and then the
Yeah.
fact that she didn't decide to have a conversation, it's okay to say, okay, well, these are the things that are bothering me. But even when he tries to address it with her, he says, oh, I found the note. He's trying to open up the conversation. She's just like, well, I love you. And she deflects. She doesn't really even try to address the fact that you left a note out for him to find of things that you don't like about him.
The thing about Hannah that I don't get is she always seems to be trying to put on a show. So when you said Marissa could not care any less about what she was saying, she kept saying in that conversation, but he loves me so much, which again confirms this whole superiority. Like she thinks she's the catch. She's yeah, I was gonna say she's the prize, but she thinks she's so much better than him, and she wants this perception of them that he's kind of bowing at her feet. even in the previews when they show some of the things that she says, like, "Oh, I took you from a boy and turned you into a man." Girl, you've known this man a week. Stop it. Cut it out. Why would you say that?
And let's be honest, the only reason she has this energy is because up until this point, I would say he's done nothing but reaffirm her. Hey, I love you. Hey, you're beautiful. I'm happy with my choice. Whether we think it's genuine or not is a different story. But from what we've seen, he's done nothing but uplift her for the
He's been
most part.
nice.
So
Yeah.
it kind of has put her on a pedestal to where she thinks she can almost do no wrong with him. And if the roles were reversed and she found something like that, oh, she would be big
A
in her
wreck.
feelings,
A
a
wreck.
mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh, there,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say there was this scene where the guys were gushing about the girls, saying how they love them, how they make them feel, like falling out. It was just so cute to watch. So I just wanted to highlight that because you don't always see it, especially on these shows. Just the guys gushing about how much they love their women.
What one other thing about Hannah and Nick D, then we can move on. She
Yeah.
called him Delulu.
In the note, right?
And what did he say to her? Well, I'm not the only one who's delusional. So I think I don't want to say that he's been playing nice.
He has been.
He okay, so that's a fair assessment. I think if she keeps poking, she might just get what she really don't want.
Because he could say some stuff, like, because nobody's perfect. But if he wanted to tear her down, he could. You didn't watch this season, but for those who did, there was this girl named Irina who, people on the internet would say she's not the most attractive. And she was talking down on the person she got paired up with. And people were like, wait, why is she talking down on this man as if she's just like hot stuff? And a video has come out where Hannah has lost a lot of weight, but it's like, even without the weight, you're not the most perfect looking person. So just be careful of how I think physically, she and Nick,
They're comparable.
thank you.
They're very average looking, and there's nothing
Wrong
wrong
with
with that. I
that.
think what she's running the risk of is, yeah, Nick D may have put on and had that BDE energy and have been doing the most in the pods, but now that we're in the real world, girl, you better be careful because the internet might be turning on you for the way that you're treating him. And even say he wasn't attracted to you or whatever, he felt however type of way, he has not done anything to deserve this type of treatment.
No.
So,
Yeah.
girl, be careful. The internet will turn on you.
Be very careful. All right. What else happened at this meetup? Ashley said that she would gamble on Tyler, and that made me feel good. We'll talk about the internet things another time. But yeah, she felt she would gamble on him. Alex said she's definitely going down the aisle. And I was like, are you, girl? I don't
From the
know.
energy we've seen, mm-mm.
I don't know. Okay. So, Tim and Nick D were talking, and this conversation rubbed me the wrong way as well. So, Tim was pretty much talking like he had the situation in check. Where, yeah, I told her I don't like arguing over small stuff, and she had to respect it. Almost like he has the whole situation under control. Like, first of all, you're a wild card, and so is she. So nobody has anybody in check. I don't even know if y'all know what being in check is based on the interactions.
You claim you want someone that bites back. So how could you ever have it in check?
I don't know. Tim and his the way that he relates to women just concerns me. But Alex doesn't make it any better. I think before watching 5 and 6, I was like, oh, poor Alex, she really about to get it. And a part of me still does feel that way with what happens later. But for the most part, I'm like, oh yeah, these are two. It's dangerous for these two to be together.
I think because of how he was going on in the pods, we didn't really get to see much of her to form a full opinion.
Yeah, but we're about to.
Yeah.
All right. So they do this whole interrogation thing, which I thought was very cute,
Mm-hmm.
where they're bringing the guys and they're asking and trying to get to know them. It was really cute. Sorry, can I just say this? It's not about the episode, it's about Love is Blind in general. Because this season is the first season we have a cast of all women of color and, just one white woman. But on AD's season, when she would have a bad day here and there was nobody who was like fixing her hair or being like, oh, girl, I got you. When the women were sitting down, Ashley reaches over to make sure that Alex's hair is together. And I'm like, see, this is what we need. It's so good to have representation and camaraderie. Yeah, just having people who understand. But I just wanted to
Yeah,
comment on
people
that
who looking
because
out for you.
it was a heartwarming moment for me.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
During that interrogation with Tim, so here's
Okay.
another example of, where he just can't find the right thing to say. I think they asked, "What do you love
Love
about
about
her
her.
most?" or something, and he says, "Oh, that she'll get with me, that she'll."
I love that she ain't scared. She'll talk her back. And
Now, Tim, I'm only going to give you a pass because I could tell you had more than a few drinks.
I'm not giving him a pass. So I said, this is not one of your little friends who you can just banter and play around with. Like, I understand
Hmm.
each relationship should have banter. Like, that makes it exciting. It makes it fun. It makes it funny. But there also has to be, that banter has to be matched with a level of like tenderness and care. Like, she's about to be your wife. This isn't one of your boys.
And I agree, but I think from what we see later on, I think as bad as they are together, I think Alex meets him with that energy. So it's gonna explode. So it's never going to be good. But I think that's why for her it's not offensive. And I don't know that she's seeing it as a problem in the way we are because we're kind of projecting because it's like, oh, we'd never.
We're used to people being very, very gentle with us.
Versus for her, she's like, yeah, I'm bossy. I don't like to repeat myself. Like she's bringing that type of energy. So it's, they're drawn to each other, but they really shouldn't be. There's a lot of growth that needs to happen for both of them
For both of
individually.
them.
But in that moment, even the way he was trying to talk all smooth and was all leaning back, and I'm like, this guy is gone. I could just tell.
A mess. So let's go to after the meetup. We'll get all the couples out of the way, and then we can end with, I don't know, maybe Monica and Steven and Tim and Alex, because those were the
Yeah.
ones who had the most afterwards. So Ramses and Marissa, they did their whole breakdown. They're talking about who they think is locked in. And Marissa's like, I think everybody's locked in. And Tyler, not Tyler. And Ramses is like, oh, you think so? Okay. Like he doesn't ever say, no, I don't think Monica, and I don't see it for Monica and Steven.
Even
I don't see it for Taylor
the
and Garrett.
percentages she gave, what she gave Tim and Alex 80%.
Yeah, it was either 75. No, 80% for them and then 75 for Hannah and
Yeah.
Nick D. I'm like,
The
she's
only people who are locked in, I would say, would be Tyler and Ashley from what we've seen.
yeah,
Maybe them, Ramses and Marissa. Everybody else is a 50-50. Like,
to me. Yeah. I agree. But and obviously Ramses is picking up on that, but he's not. He's just gonna let her have her moment. All right. Hannah and Nick D. Okay, I think their conversation afterwards could have included a couple of apologies. I think he, whether we think it should have made her feel bad or not, I think it did make her feel bad. And as her partner, I think he should have said, okay, well, I'm still learning who you are. I didn't realize that that would affect you. Like this woman is 60 something years old, which I don't think she looked 60 at all. I think maybe in her 50s, and she did look really good. But he could have said, I didn't know that that would trigger you this way, and I apologize for doing that. And I think she should have apologized for being petty and leaving out the note instead of just having a conversation with him. Like I think she was leading with pettiness and anger when she was just hurt, and she could have just leaned into the hurt and said, "Hey, this made me feel XYZ way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't appreciate that neither one of them apologized to the other person.
I will say, if I was to gauge maturity, Hannah's still very immature.
Oh yeah. And
Because
Nick,
what she
yeah.
did it really call for that? If this is a person that you would be like, oh, this would be my spouse for forever, that's almost grounds for divorce. You got 10 whole things you don't like about me, and then the stuff she listed were serious things.
Is he mature enough? Is he here for this, or is he?
Yeah,
He's delusional. Yeah. There were a lot. If I were him, I would be hurt by seeing that list.
that's hitting way below the belt, I
And I think
think.
she intended to.
Yeah.
I think she intended to. Okay, Monica and Steven, because they had a little moment here. Um, I will say this is the moment that I started to like Steven. Before I was like, okay, I could do without him or do with it doesn't matter. But I started to like him here. He said the way the girls were supporting each other was gorgeous. And I thought it was too. So the fact that he made that observation I thought was very sweet. Um, Apparently Monica thinks he talks too much.
Now this is where Monica kind of started to lose me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you've been in the pods with him where you're talking and talk. Is this the first time that he hasn't given you the space to talk? And then even when you're like, give me the space, you don't say nothing.
Okay. I also started to lose Monica here. I think I started to see, oh, Steven is really like serving her. He's bringing her the pillow. He's making sure that
Water,
which,
slippers.
which he should do. I think if you're a partner, you should be willing to, make sure your person is comfortable. So I appreciated him doing that. Um, I hope she doesn't take advantage of that.
Were you getting the energy of he should kind of be glad to have me? Because I feel like I don't know that she's fishing for compliments, but there's a lot of her getting uplifted and reassurance from him. He's serving her. Even him talking the way that he was, I don't know. It just feels like she's thinks in her mind that she's here and he's here. Like, oh, have some class about yourself.
And I wonder how things are going to be when they get back to their lives because he's very blue collar, she's very white collar. I think even when she was like, oh my God, you're just doing all this talking, the way that he received that feedback, I
He's
was
like,
like,
okay.
that's admirable. I'm sorry. Am I doing it again? It was very admirable of the way that he accepted that feedback. So I hope that she knows that is not everybody and appreciates that about him. With her being quiet after he stopped talking, I can understand it because it's like, okay, now I'm so irritated. I don't even know that I want to talk. And I think that's what the silence was. Like she had things to say, but she was so irritated. It's like, okay, let me just collect my thoughts before I say anything.
I will say I didn't mind her saying like, "Hey, yeah, you're doing it again." I feel like she harped on it too long. It
Fair.
almost felt like a parent reprimanding a child because he
Child.
said like 3, 4 times, "Okay, I'm sorry." She said it again. Okay,
It
I'm
was
sorry.
enough.
She said it
Yeah.
again. Okay, I'm sorry. It's like, is this your toddler or is this your husband? You could have said, "Hey, baby, yeah, you're doing it again." And I think it also goes back to I think when you're still getting to know each other, if I were in the first 2 weeks of dating someone, I probably wouldn't reprimand them or I wouldn't address it in that way. I would try to keep it much lighter than that.
Yeah.
It felt too harsh too
Yeah.
soon. Like maybe 10 years in, you're like,
Enough.
and it might happen vice versa where you're doing something and they're like, again? That's why when Alex was like, oh, I don't like to repeat myself. I'm like, girl, do you want to be married?
Right. Okay, so a lot of repetition.
But yeah, it's like, girl, you're on day 2 of Cabo, and this how
Yeah.
you talking to this man? I like
Yeah.
Steven. Um, I just don't know that I don't think he's the right fit for her. When he was even describing like, oh, you're pushing me to plan for the future, and I'm all for people pairing based off of maybe in areas where, oh, you're stronger, I'm
Yeah.
weaker, but I would hate for him to be paired with someone where he just feels like he's never going to be he's not going to be that Ivy League guy. And that's
I
okay.
I think it's going to be a turn off for her because she might not want to feel like, oh, well, I'm carrying this. One, okay, she's older than him, and then the career differences. So I think it's just they'll have a lot to figure out, and I just hope she doesn't break this man down because he does seem to be sweet. And I know last episode I was on the fence about him, and there are things in his past that I'm still on the fence about. I'm just trying to move past, but he seems to be a very sweet man. And so I hope she doesn't break him. But then Monica said that she was feeling weird about Tim, and that's when I was like, oh,
Yeah,
maybe
what
maybe we're on
happened?
the same page. Like somebody else is seeing it there. It's not just me. And she said that she was picking up on something with them. It obviously wasn't shown on camera until we get to the next day.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about Tim and Alex and him not spending the night in their apartment and things that she called him?
Yeah, so the way it was explained, we don't see this, but the next morning he comes to their hotel room together.
Hmm.
Apparently, as they're leaving the party, he picks up on some weird energy from her where she's being standoffish. He asks her, hey, what's wrong? Did I do something? And she doesn't really communicate it.
She says she
And
doesn't want to talk about it or something
yeah,
like
she does.
that.
Yeah, she doesn't, I guess, say much of anything. But later on says, "Oh, I was tired and I'm just missing home." And she admits that, "Oh, I could have said more, but I just didn't feel like it." And so my thought was there something that happened at the party to where she doesn't feel comfortable saying what he did that put her in that mood? Or was she really just in a I'm over you and I don't feel like talking about it? So that was my first question is, do we really have laid out for us what actually happened?
When I tell you, I couldn't even write notes during this scene because I was just trying to figure out. So what happened?
But if we go by what she said, the next morning he was asking, she just didn't feel like talking about it. It escalates to the point where I guess she gets upset at him taking it personal that she
Hmm.
doesn't want to talk about what's going on with her and why she's feeling the way that she's feeling. And she admits that she should have communicated it better. And he says that he felt unheard. Apparently, it escalates to her covering his mouth and calling him out of his name.
Which I want to know what she called him. Because, okay, here. So after I rewatched the scene, just trying to put the pieces together. Here's what I have come up with. And we all wrong. We're just speculating. But I'm like, okay, she's leaving the party, maybe just ready to unwind or something. I'm ready to be away from people, shower, and get in the bed. I wonder if he's still in his playful Tim, mode. And that's the shift that he notices. Okay, she's not trying to be playful with me because she's whatever. And so he's like, what's going on? What's wrong? She's like, I'm not really trying to do all this communicating right now. I I can see that. I can see him being still a little bit hype. I think if he kept pushing, like if he kept pushing about what's wrong and trying to get her to talk when she's clearly not in the space where she wants to talk, I could see how that gets annoying and I see how that could become too much. But I also feel for him because it's like, okay, we're here, we're supposed to be connecting. I can see why he would take that personally because now I don't know what's wrong with you. You're not telling me. And the only thing that I can do is draw conclusions that I did something to you that has offended you. So I feel for him in this situation. I also feel for her. I think he mentioned that he has to remove himself when he feels unheard. And again, I can understand that. However, when she said packing up and leaving the space we share is a different kind of removing yourself, I agree with her. I think you guys have known each other for or been in person all of 2 days. And whatever this argument was, for you to pack up your stuff and be like, I'm out, I can imagine over the course of a relationship, there will be much more difficult things. So, is that how you're going to always react? And then her with like covering his mouth and getting in his face and escalating, like, that is not
So
a.
that's the part I wanted more clarity on. Did him being like, "Hey, I'm gonna leave" to diffuse the situation because it had already escalated to that point, or was he doing it beforehand? Because to me, that makes
Different.
a difference. I agree. You can't just jump up and run at the first sight of indifference. But based off of the way she handled the conversation and even how she apologized and just how things moved forward, from what I gather is that her temper may have gotten the best of her in the argument beforehand.
Hmm.
And because she mentioned something about how she felt disrespected, but she never said in what way or how. But she did admit, like, yeah, you're wrong, you're right, I did do those things, you're right, I did. So she spoke up when he was calling out the things that she did to disrespect him, but then she said she felt disrespected. And when he was like, well, I know you may feel that way, she never said, oh no, but you did XYZ. So I also wanted to know, what did he do to make you feel disrespected? She never said.
I will say, and I don't know these people, but would Tim acknowledge, so the way that Alex was acknowledging and being held accountable for what she did wrong, was Tim putting himself in the position where he could acknowledge and take accountability for things that he's done? It seemed like when he came in, it was from the position of like, you did wrong to me, and like, it didn't seem
That,
like
that's
he was willing to
and
accept
that's
any
why
role he can.
I'm leaning into the fact that I think whatever she did, I think it happened before I think he decided, like, hey, I'm packing up and I'm leaving. Because he then goes on to say, like, I'm questioning if I can even see you as my wife, the mother of my children.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he was, I don't know what happened, but based off what she acknowledged, I, in her admitting she has a temper,
Yeah.
we've seen this back and forth. She doesn't like to repeat herself. She gets annoyed kind of easily. And them being tired, I it sounds like what transpired before he left was this escalation of her putting her hand over his mouth, her calling him out of his name, whatever. They never said what it was, but I'm in agreement with him on, yeah, if it's escalating to that point, one of you do need to remove, like, we don't need to be fighting or any type of back and forth. And
Mm.
whether it's if he had put his hand over her mouth, I'd be like, girl, yeah, pack up your stuff
Get
and
out of here.
just get out of there. This is not for you. So it doesn't even matter that it's the man or the woman.
Mm-hmm.
I can only go by what she's acknowledged. And I'd hope that, I know for me, whether I think you're going to acknowledge it or not, especially if I'm on TV, if you did something to disrespect me in the course of an argument, I'm going to say what
What
it
you did.
is.
You know, she put her hand over his mouth when they met too. You remember when he was doing the dog thing, and she like reached over and was like, you're ruining the moment. Stop, you're ruining the moment. So I don't know if it was similar to that, but now we're in an escalated situation and you're doing this, or what it was. I because it's Tim, a part of me is like,
What did you do?
no, 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 not what did you do? I honestly think from his perspective, it was a misunderstanding. Like, even when he said something like, oh yeah, you called me insecure. And she's like, no, what I said was me not talking to you and you taking it this way is showing maybe insecurities that you have. Like, so I think he felt rejected when he wanted to interact with her after the party and she just wasn't feeling it. And I think he just didn't handle that rejection well. And then anything after that, he was probably more sensitive to. Now, as far as putting your hands on somebody, never acceptable. So if that's something that she did, then I need receipts from that. I needed the whole camera crew to be there.
I don't understand why she'd admit to those things if she didn't do those things. Like, she's a good communicator, so I don't know. This is a mess. Y'all clearly don't need to be together.
No.
And I think because Tim is not the most likable of characters, I think it's one of those things where, I don't know, he probably was on some Wolf energy.
But that's the thing. Like, if I'm
the heck out of the girl,
I don't know that he
But it
can
didn't
read the
matter.
room. Like, she clearly doesn't like this. And so if that's what you're bringing and she's tired and now you're mad because she doesn't want to put up with it. And then the whole comment about, oh, I don't even see you as a wife, as the mother of my kids. Because it's Tim, I could see, okay, some actions that she made have him changing his mind. But also, I think it wouldn't require much for him to be like, oh, like even the comment about, oh, thank you for being worthy of it. So now she's done something that makes her less worthy. I think he has an interesting relationship with women that I don't totally want to discount here. And that's not to say Alex is perfect, because I do not think she is. I just think the combination of her temper, her, biting back or whatever,
be careful what you ask for.
the combination of her very nature with his, you have to be on your best behavior to prove that you're worthy of me type of vibe is just, it's a lot. I'm stressed.
Yeah, it's Alex. You're gonna have to speak up and say more, girl. What more happened?
And what did you call him? Because if
I
you call
stand
him
by
what
the
I
fact
think,
that if things went the way that you acknowledge that they happened, it's almost, if the roles were reversed and he called you out of your name, put his hand over your mouth, I know I'd be like, it don't really matter what she did up until that point because it doesn't call for that. And so I'm gonna keep the same energy and say it don't really matter what she said up until that point or what he said up until that point. It does not call for that. So y'all just need to call it off now.
please
And
save
don't stress
us.
us out.
Because if this is about to get violent, I can't. My little heart cannot take it. I do not like violence. Yeah. So.
But we do see that in the previews, they do end up coming back together. So.
And it seems like they have more issues, which, duh. Like she said at her proposal, duh. What do you expect? So yeah. Anyway, you guys let us know what you think about the whole Tim and Alex thing. I've seen people on threads talking about it where they're like, oh, she's mean and she's wrong. It had to be her fault. And other people are like, oh, he's annoying, so it had to be him. I think they're both awful.
I know, and I feel like Tim, we've said how we felt, but I think Alex was kind of able to fly under the radar because so much attention was placed on the sorrow and his grief, and there was a lot of her crying where we really didn't get a chance to really see her. That now it's like, well, whoa, where'd this come from? But
or sometimes people bring the worst out of each other, and I think that's what we're seeing on our screens with these two. Like him saying, oh yeah, I want somebody to bite back. And now she feels like, okay, well, this is how I have to be to manage in this relationship. Or, you know, her biting back and then him being like, okay, but I don't really like arguing like that. Which one is it?
Leave the dogs out of this. Leave them out.
No more dogs, please. All right. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you are watching, if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please leave us a 5-star rating. Also, we have a YouTube channel, so you can come in the comments and let us know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Give us new perspective. We love to see it all. But yeah, we will catch you guys on the next one. Until next time, bye.
Bye.